I got what you need right here, baby. This is what Daikon told Ruth, right? After all that has gone on, after all they've been through, he's gotten slapped by the highest, shamed by the highest, even took a sword to his wrist over this woman. After all is said and done, Daikon still want to break Ruth off.
Let's talk about cults. Jonestown. Jim Jones convinced over 900 people to drink poison. David Koresh allowed a lot of his followers to burn in the fire of Waco, Texas.
This is a trailer breakdown for Tyler Perry's Ruthless Season 4, the upcoming season that's due to air Thursday, April 20th. We're going to get into what we heard, we're going to get into what we saw, and we're going to also talk about who and what we don't see. And we all know how trailers go sometimes, where we think that they're talking to and about one particular thing, but when the show actually airs, they're talking about something completely different. But there is one thing that cannot and will not be denied, is that FBI Supervisor Mac, he's trash. This trigger knew that he sent his men into the lion's den with no backup, so they had to get rid of him. And maybe Malcolm and Daikon were right when they said that Mac was down with the Raku a long time ago. Y'all, long gone are the days when you can go somewhere and then say, hey, if I'm not back in 10 minutes, then come inside because that means something's wrong. Or if I'm not back in a day or two, then send someone to get me. None of that is happening on here. So maybe Malcolm and Daikon were right when they said that he was down with the Raku a long time ago. So he's out of there. And he's been replaced by this chick.
Which brings me to why we are here today. Tyrone Manuel Luckett. He has a compound in Virginia. 2 of our men are on the inside, and they have not been heard from in several days.
Wait, no!
I want to go in blasting.
You're gonna have an awful lot of dead bodies on your hands.
Now, we all knew from the very beginning that Mac was a little off, right? I've always said this, how passive and soft he was, and how much he allowed his employees, Malcolm and Brian and Andrew, to just run all over him. They pretty much ran that office however they saw fit, right? Especially Malcolm. He's always been running amok. He allowed Andrew to go on assignment up to the Rakadushi camp just because he couldn't handle the fact that Malcolm was smashing his wife, Sarah. He really couldn't take it, so he had to just leave home and go to the Rakadushi camp to take his mind off of things, leaving his one and only son. And where is that kid, by the way? If Oliver took Sarah out and Andrew's away frolicking on the compound, where's the son? We need to know what happened to little Andrew because he's part of the reason that Andrew was so pumped to escape. But nonetheless, Mac allowed him to go, not because he was well trained, not because he deserved to go, not even because he was selected, but only because it was too much heat in the kitchen after Malcolm clapped his wife's cheeks, and he couldn't handle it, so he ran away to the compound. All of this is Mac's fault, if you ask me. His office was poorly ran, he made poor decisions, and he never sent in backup, even after he knew that things were going wrong. So Mac is out of here and Barbie is in, and she's having a meeting with other agents, and she's telling them about Tyrone Luckett, aka the Highest. She told them that he's running a compound out in Virginia with 2 of their men on the inside. Of course, she's talking about Andrew and Brian, and she has no idea that Malcolm is there too. She goes on to tell them that they haven't heard from either of them in several days. Now, for us, it's been about 3 seasons and some change since they've been on the compound, right? But in TV land, it's only been a few days.
Let's go.
I overdosed it. We have to go now.
If we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it my way.
I can tell you about the whole investigation.
You people are insane.
We are the Raku. The government, they are coming.
Tyrone Luckett, he's got men, women, and children held captive in every sense of the word, killing innocent people left and right just because they want to go home. But now they're onto him in the worst way. And on a different note, is anyone really that concerned about Lilo? Remember when he used to come to the compound like he was God, and all these politicians and officials, they'd be looking for him if the money started looking funny, or if he didn't make it back to Washington before the streetlights came on. They really made a big deal about Lilo, but now that Oliver got him chopped up in little pieces and placed inside of his trunk, and now they're coming after Tyrone and his buddy Daikon, Elder Mother, and all the little demon soldiers. We even see one of them now on the PA system warning everybody that the evil government is coming. They're on their way.
Take up arms! I am not leaving here without my daughter.
Think you're so slick.
She is dead.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
And this isn't a dress rehearsal. Like, this is the real deal. They even got Joan yelling that the sound of the bullhorn means that everybody should take arms. And she's yelling this at the top of her lungs. Little mousy mouth Joan, the one who usually talks just above a whisper. She's yelling for everybody to take arms. And this clip right here, it's one of the most interesting clips throughout the entire trailer, because Tyrone here doesn't look like he's going to be up to taking on the government. Doesn't look like he feels too good. We have to remember that River gave him a little too much of that magic on the final episode that ended last season. And yeah, he did this on purpose. We see Ruth and River trying to pull him up from that couch. He's incapacitated and he's not fit to lead his army into battle with the government. He's out of it. Either that or he's really gone home to meet the Raku. And we have to keep this in the back of our minds and just imagine the government being on their way and the High is knocked out cold on the couch. We also see Daikon holding his meeting with the soldiers underneath the gazebo. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. So y'all tell me down below if you think that the Highest is still amongst the living or no. Now, speaking of Daikon, he still wants Ruth. He still wants Ruth and her imaginary baby. He all in the trailer telling her that she thinks she's slick, still acting like he's mad at her, right, for sleeping with him and the Highest. But he ain't mad. It's all a game that he likes to play with her. And this is just his way of making her be all apologetic so that she can start rubbing on his chest, batting her eyes. That's all he wants. He's in love with Ruth and he can't help it. But he's also in love with the Highest. In season 1, these guys were hot and heavy, all over each other. Daikon even became jealous when he found out that River had taken his place in the Highest bedroom. He was even jealous of Andrew and of Ruth sometimes. Now, we may all be wondering where Elder Mother is and what she's doing while the compound is falling apart. If we remember, in the event that the government should come, Elder Mother Supreme is responsible for lining up all the children and giving them the poison applesauce and the Kool-Aid, remember? But we see her here in the trailer telling someone that she or he is dead. Now, the audio that's in this trailer, it isn't crystal clear, so it's kind of hard to make out which one she said. And it's got me wondering, if the Highest is dead, does this automatically make Daikon the next HNIC? Or does Ruth become leader of the compound? Because we do see her telling River that she's not leaving there without her child and that he ain't seen nothing yet. And she added that if she's gonna escape, then she's gonna do it her way. What's her way? Is she now running the compound since the Highest is incapacitated? But listen, can we all agree that Ruth has had more than enough time, opportunity, and space to escape? But greed, money, power, it all stood in the way of her until now. What's different? Why now? I believe that she wants to be sure that when she does make a move, that she has enough backup, right? She needs a strong backup, like the federal government behind her. Ruth really can't digest the unfruitful plans. The unfruitful plans from Tally or Oliver or Lacey. Everyone who tried to leave left there without a backup plan, right? Even with a gun, some wheels. their plan still failed. So Ruth had to pay attention to all of that. And she's waiting around until the time is just right for her to grab little Callie from that trailer and make a run for the border, literally. So tell me what you think her way is down in the comments below. Now, in our next clip, we see Motormouth Malcolm in the charge chair, waiting to get them charges. Now, Malcolm has traded his suit and tie work attire for a pair of Calvin Kleins, and we already know he's got the gift of gab, right? Ready to snitch, spill the beans, and strike a deal. And since Daikon is leading the pack now, apparently he's telling Daikon that he can tell him everything he wants to know about their FBI investigation and all the ins and all the outs on what they plan on doing with their findings at the compound. And Malcolm's been trying to do this like ever since they were in the trailer together. And he doesn't mind throwing his coworkers under the bus. He doesn't mind being called the snitch and the sellout. He's trying to play hero and save his own hiney, right? Period. End of story. And if we think about it, Malcolm really doesn't have anything to lose in this compound battle. He's already won the privilege of playing FBI playboy, sleeping around with all the wives, buying up all the dope, just having a good old time. So he's more than likely to side with the enemy and let more cats out of the bag. Malcolm is the core reason why Sarah is dead. That's why Andrew is there in the first place, to escape that pain. Because had Andrew not been there at all, the Hyatts would have never ordered him to go and kill his wife to show his loyalty to him and the Raku. Malcolm is also responsible for Lynn lying over there on the grass. He was smashing her too. They getting high off the cocoa. And why are you going to go to the compound to get more? You know, if you want more of the cocoa, well, I guess it's like Lynn said. They wanted the best. So if you're a cokehead, maybe that's what you prefer, no matter where it is. So had it not been for Malcolm, again, their wives may very well still be alive. Am I being fair though? Can we solely blame Malcolm for the demise of the Ruthless Wives? They need to be a spinoff, The Real Housewives of Ruthless. Now that would be interesting, right? But should we be blaming Motormouth Malcolm for all the trouble that he carelessly brings to the front door? And we can't forget about our boy River here. River is about to be on that same time that Zane is on. He's losing it. And this is who's conveniently missing from the trailer, guys. Zane. Where is Zane? But we know how they do. They're probably going to drop more trailers and then Zane will show up in one of those. And remembering where she left off, she wants to marry the Hyatts and get rid of Ruth. She wants to be in Ruth's shoes so bad. I mean, how bad does she want to be Mrs. Tyrone Luckett? What is she willing to do and how far is she willing to go? But that's another story for another day. Right now, we're on River, and River, he's given the Hyatts what appears to be a lethal dose of the magic. And he only seemed nervous a little bit. Like, yeah, I did it, but now I need to get the hell out of here. That's it and that's all. And we see Ruth helping him try and move the Hyatts. But I don't really blame River one bit. This kid has been through all kinds of physical and emotional torture right at the hands of the Hyatts. Now we know what River's role was on the compound, because we have to remember that we were all trying to figure out who River was. Remember where he came from and what his goal was there. And now we know why he knew so much about the Hyatts. He was spending all of his time with the Hyatts, playing strip poker, listening to classical music, laying in bed with the Hyatts, watching old movies. So he was all up in the mix. But then, the longer he stayed, the crazier the Hyatts got. And his requests to see River, they grew more and more outlandish. Do y'all remember when River had those men standing around listening to him like he was some sort of philosopher or English professor or something? They were soaking it all in, hanging on to his every word, only for them and all of us to find out that he was just a young male prostitute. He had all of us fooled, right? So I guess Daikon and Joan convinced Aaron and Laura to put their bags down and to get comfortable, as if they really had a choice. The only people allowed to just come and freely go from the compound after seeing what they were all about was Lilo and Sheriff Conley. Everyone else either left there in a body bag or was turned around right at the front gate. People like Richard from the Oval, right? Now, if you are lucky enough to get inside the gate and leave with your life, you won't leave the same way you came in. Hence Nancy Halsen. Nancy bat crazy over there on the Oval. She don't know if she's going or coming, but Laura and Aaron, they're still there. And I'm sure they're nervous and scared. Well, we know that Aaron is, but Laura, maybe not so much. She ready to sign on the dotted line, get her purple robe, and go through her first initiation. And Aaron, he's ready to go home. He's just ready to get the hell out of there. But let's just give Laura some grace because she didn't really see everything that her husband saw, right? But his words should hold some weight on her decision. I mean, after all, that's her husband, right? Like, why doesn't she believe a word that he's saying? Then we hear him tell River that they're all insane. Well, you think? That's all day, every day. If the Rackadoochies has proven one thing during their compound visit, is how crazy and out to lunch everyone is, especially their good buddy Joan. Joan is done. And this character flip-flops a little too much for me. So I've already had enough of this happy-go-lucky couple because they aren't using enough logic to put 2 and 2 together. But when they finally decide to leave, they let someone else talk them right out of doing what's right, against their better judgment. Just simple weaklings. And we don't really know much about this wayward couple, so he could have a bad lying tongue. I mean, all we know is that they're Joan's quote-unquote friends from Oregon, but I guess we're about to find out. Some of the things that took place on screen that we saw without any dialogue was Aaron sitting in the highest bedroom. Did the highest get to him, y'all? But the highest is incapacitated. So maybe after he has regained consciousness, or maybe Aaron is in there in a medical capacity to help revive him. Isn't he a doctor or an EMT or something like that? So maybe he's there to help the highest. I don't know. Maybe it's the morning after. Who knows? We also see Ruth being stopped by the soldiers, the wife of the highest to be. Where y'all think she going? Will they hold Ruth captive or will they let her go? I mean, they certainly not going to hurt her, right? So what are they going to do with the queen of the compound when she tries to leave? Is the government there at this point? I'm thinking that things are coming to a close there and everyone is quite antsy. The highest in his trailer laid out like a $2 WHORE on the couch. And nobody knows what to do. So again, this is where Daikon, Ruth, and Andrew, they ought to just take over. But Ruth doesn't really know Daikon's temperature. 1 minute, he's all in love with her. Then the next minute, he wants to kill her. And I've said this before, someone has to take over. Someone has to be able to give the orders and know how to get them carried out without being too suspicious until it's safe to leave. I mean, now they got me all anxious that the government is coming because we all know how this is going to end, right? We all know that eventually they will all get that red Kool-Aid and the kids are going to get that applesauce. I can only hope that the final scene is not as graphic as it could be. It'll take me forever to get those images out of my head. If you haven't seen it yet, or maybe you'd like to watch it again, heck, just put it on repeat and listen to the story of Jim Jones and the church that he started that later became a cult following. Either way, I'll leave the link up above and it will also be down below in the description box. Tyler Perry really delivered this dark story, right, on an entertainment level that no one else can do and that no one else has done for that matter. And although we're fans of the show, this is real life. Even as of today, we still have modern day cults and lives are still being sacrificed in some. People being held against their will, tortured, manipulated, beaten, RAPED. So as entertaining as it all is, it's still real life somewhere. And I just hope and pray that their choices and freedom will be restored within that world. But some people don't want to leave the lifestyle. They don't want to leave that family. Some people have become accustomed to that life inside the cult and accustomed to the way that they do things and how their leaders take care of them. They enjoy being led in that manner and, being told what to do. So while we sit here and we create content for videos for you to enjoy, and while we scream at the TV each week because a certain character didn't respond to do something the way that we wanted them to do, just remember to say a prayer, even if it's a silent one, that the children and the lost ones are set spiritually and physically free. Okay, now if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. You know I'd appreciate it. And if you're a fan of Tyler Perry's Ruthless like I am, go ahead and sub to the channel for more videos just like this one. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Ruthless TV, you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.